Hi friends, ready for a fast revision? Chapter 6, the beginnings of Indian civilization from villages to the fall of Harappans, all in minutes. Let's begin our revision. Settling down of early humans. Early humans stopped moving from place to place and began to live in one area. Then humans started growing crops which helped them settle permanently. People developed technologies such as construction, metallurgy and transportation. So what is metallurgy? Metallurgy is the science of extracting, purifying and studying metals and their properties. Without metallurgy, we would not have tools, machines or modern technology. These developments slowly led human societies towards civilization. So, meaning of civilization? Civilization refers to an advanced stage of human societies. To clearly understand civilization, historians say it must have some important characteristics. So, we will now see what are those. First one, government and administration. The civilization must have some form of government to manage people and activities in a complex society. Second, urbanism. This means planned towns and cities. It includes town planning, water management and proper drainage systems. Third one, variety of crafts. People should know different crafts such as using raw materials like stone or metal and making finished goods like tools and ornaments. Then trade. A civilization must have trade. It must have internal trade within a city or region and external trade with distant regions or other parts of the world. Then it should have a writing system. Some form of writing is needed to keep records and communicate information. Then it should have cultural ideas. Civilization shows ideas about life and the world through art, architecture, literature, oral traditions and social customs. Then the most fundamental characteristic, that is productive agriculture. Agriculture must be strong enough to feed villages and support large cities as well. This is because agriculture provides food, which is the basic need of humans. When there is enough food, people can settle in one place, villages and cities can grow. Some people can do other work like crafts, trade, administration and art. So, without surplus food, there cannot be large cities and specialized occupations, trade or a strong government. Therefore, productive agriculture helps in the development of all other features of civilization. Today, we can easily see that most societies in the world have all the features of civilization. But an important question is, when did civilization actually begin? Civilization did not begin at the same time everywhere. It started at different times in different parts of the world. One of the earliest civilizations developed in Mesopotamia, a region that includes modern-day Iraq and Syria about 6,000 years ago. A few centuries later, another great civilization developed in ancient Egypt. You will learn more details about this civilization in higher classes. So, these ancient civilizations made great contributions in areas like agriculture, cities, writing and administration. Because of their advances, humanity reached at its present stage of development. In this chapter, however, we will focus only on the Indian subcontinent. Our story begins in its northwestern region. So, in this timeline, we can see that Mesopotamian civilization began around 4000 BCE, which is the earliest civilization in the world. Next, Egyptian civilization began around 3000 BCE, a little later than Mesopotamia. After that, around 2000 BCE, the Indus Sarasvatī civilization developed in the Indian subcontinent. So, we can also see that the main period of the Indus Sarasvatī civilization was from 2600 BCE to 1900 BCE. This was the time when cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were at their peak. So, in this timeline, we can see that when different ancient civilizations existed. So long ago, the wide plains of Punjab and Sindh were watered by the Indus River and its tributaries. Because of this regular water supply, the soil became fertile, which means good for farming. So, agriculture developed very well in these areas. A little towards the east, thousands of years ago, another river called the Sarasvatī used to flow. It started from the foothills of the Himalayas and passed through Haryana, Punjab and parts of Rajasthan and Gujarat. Because of rivers and fertile land, many villages developed in this region. From about 3500 BCE, these villages slowly grew into towns. As trade and exchanges increased, towns became larger and more organized. Finally, around 2600 BCE, many towns developed into cities. Archaeologists gave several names for this civilization: Indus civilization, Harappan civilization, Indus Sarasvatī civilization, or Sindhu Sarasvatī civilization. All these names refer to the same civilization. This process of people settling in cities with planned streets, trade and administration is called the first urbanization of India. It means this was the first time in India that humans lived in organized urban centers instead of just villages. Or we can say urbanization means living in cities, and the Harappans were the first in India to do this. Then we have something very important. The people of this civilization are called Harappans because Harappa was the first city to be excavated by archaeologists in 1920 to 1921. Even though there were many other cities, the name Harappan is used because this discovery marked the beginning of our study of this civilization. Rivers were like lifelines for early civilizations. Many cities grew near rivers because they provided water, fertile soil for farming, and easy transport. The Indus River is also called as Sindhu River. It has 5 main tributaries. Important Harappan cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro developed along these rivers as they supported farming, trade, and daily life. Apart from the Indus River, many settlements also grew along the Sarasvatī River. The Sarasvatī is first mentioned in the Rig Veda, where it is worshipped both as goddess and as a river flowing from the mountains to the sea. Today, this river is known as the Ghaggar River in India and the Hakra River in Pakistan. And so, it is often called as Ghaggar-Hakra River. At present, it is a seasonal river, meaning it flows only during the rainy season. The first 2 cities of this Indus Sarasvatī civilization to be discovered were Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which are now in Pakistan. Their discovery happened around 1924, almost a century ago. After that, several other sites were found in the Indus Plains. Because the first discoveries were in Indus Valley, the civilization was initially called the Indus Valley civilization. After Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, other major cities of the Indus Sarasvatī civilization were discovered, such as Dholavira in Gujarat, Rakhi Gari in Haryana, and Ganveriwala in Cholistan Desert, Pakistan. In addition, hundreds of smaller sites like Lothal in Gujarat were also found. Some of these sites have been excavated and discoveries of new sites continue even today. And Saraswati Basin has 2 major cities, Rakhi Gari and Ganveriwala. Several smaller cities like Farmana in Haryana, Kalibangan in Rajasthan, and towns like Birana and Banawali in Haryana. So, Saraswati Basin is also very important in Harappan civilization. So, we now know that the civilization did not exist only in the Indus Valley. It extended much beyond the Indus region, including parts of Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Pakistan. So, calling it the Indus Valley civilization is not completely accurate. That's why historians now prefer terms like Harappan civilization or Indus Sarasvatī civilization or Sindhu Sarasvatī civilization. The larger Harappan cities were carefully planned. They had wide streets which were often laid out according to the cardinal directions. Most cities were surrounded by fortification, that means strong walls to protect the people. The cities had 2 main parts, upper town and lower town. Upper town where the elite probably lived. Lower town where the common people lived. This shows that Harappan cities were well organized and thoughtfully designed. In Harappan cities, there were some large buildings that were probably used for collective purposes like warehouses to store goods that were to be traded or transported. The streets and smaller lanes were lined with individual houses of different sizes. Interestingly, small houses and big houses were built with similar quality. All buildings were mostly made of bricks, showing that Harappans were skilled builders. This tells us that the Harappan civilization was well planned and even ordinary people lived in well constructed houses. Some structures in Harappan cities: still puzzle historians because their exact purpose is unknown. One famous example is the Great Bath in Mohenjo-daro. It is a small but elaborate tank measuring about 12 into 7 meters. The floor and walls were carefully built with bricks. Waterproofing materials like natural bitumen, a type of tar, were used to prevent leakage. The tank was surrounded by small rooms, one of which had a well. There was a drain in one corner to empty the tank and refill it with fresh water. Historians still debate its purpose, but it may have been used for rituals, ceremonies, or bathing. This picture shows a wide street at Kalibangan, which is in Rajasthan. The street is in lower town area where common people lived. It shows how Harappan cities had well-planned streets to make movement and trade easy. The wide streets were part of the city's careful planning with houses lining the sides. This helps us understand that Harappans were organized city planners, not just builders. And the next picture shows the housing area in Dholavira, Harappan city in Gujarat. The streets are perpendicular, forming a grid-like pattern which shows careful city planning. Unlike most Harappan cities that had two zones, Dholavira had three distinct zones: upper town, middle town, and lower town. The foundations of most buildings were made of stones, which made them strong and durable. And this picture shows the Great Bath of Mohenjo-daro, one of the most famous structures of the Harappan civilization. Next is water management. The Harappans gave much importance to water management and cleanliness. Many houses had separate bathing areas. These baths were connected to a network of drains which ran below the streets. The drains carried wastewater away, keeping the city clean and hygienic. This shows that Harappans were advanced in sanitation and urban planning, even thousands of years ago. This picture shows the drainage system at Lothal, a Harappan city in Gujarat. In Mohenjo-daro, people drew water from hundreds of wells made of bricks. In other areas, they might have used ponds, nearby streams, or human-made reservoirs. In Dholavira, run of Kutch, Gujarat, they built a huge reservoir, the largest measured 73 meters in length. So what is a reservoir? A reservoir is a large place where water is stored, which can be either natural like a lake or artificial, that is made by humans. At Dholavira, the Harappans built at least 6 large reservoirs. These were made of stones or even cut directly into rock. Most reservoirs were connected through underground drains. The system helped in efficient water harvesting and distribution across the city. Next topic is, what did the Harappans eat? The Harappans built many settlements along rivers, which was smart because rivers provided water for drinking, daily life and agriculture. River soil was fertile, helping crops grow well. Harappans grew cereals like barley, wheat, some millets and sometimes rice. Pulses like beans, peas, lentils, that is dals, and vegetables of different kinds. They were the first in Eurasia to grow cotton and weave it into clothes. They made plows and other tools for farming. Some of these tools are still used by farmers today. This shows that the Harappans were advanced in agriculture and innovative in using natural resources. The Harappans had intense agricultural activity, which was managed by hundreds of small villages around the cities. So, cities depended on the villages for their food supply and villages supported the urban population. And also, the Harappans didn't just grow crops, they also kept animals and fish. They domesticated animals to get meat and they fished in rivers and even in the sea. Archaeologists know this because they have found lots of animal and fish bones during excavations. When archaeologists studied Harappan cooking pots to see what people ate, they found expected things like dairy products. They also found surprising items like turmeric, ginger and banana. This shows that Harappans had a diverse diet and used spices and fruits in their cooking. Next topic is a brisk trade. The Harappans were active traders both within their civilization and with other regions outside India. They exported goods like ornaments, especially beads of carnelian and a reddish semi-precious stone from Gujarat. Timber, objects of daily use like tools and pottery, gold, cotton and possibly some food items. Carnelian beads were very popular and highly valued in trade. Harappan craftspeople were very skilled in making ornaments. They developed special techniques to drill beads so that a string could pass through. They also decorated beads in many ways to make them beautiful. Harappans worked with conch shells to make shell bangles, which is difficult because shells are very hard. This shows that Harappans were expert craftsmen with advanced tools and techniques. We know what the Harappans exported, but what they imported in return is less clear. Archaeologists believe that they probably imported copper because it was not commonly found in the Harappan region. This shows that the Harappans traded to get materials they lacked, like copper for tools and ornaments. And another thing which is clear is that the Harappans were skilled metal workers. They could work with copper, which is a soft metal. When tin is added to copper, it makes bronze, which is harder and stronger. Harappans used bronze to make tools, pots, pans, some figurines. So this shows that the Harappans had advanced knowledge of metallurgy and could make stronger and more useful objects. This picture shows carnelian beads made by the Harappans that were found at Susa in present-day Iran. Carnelian beads were famous Harappan ornaments, beautifully drilled and decorated, often in red color. The fact that these beads were found so far from the Harappan region shows that the Harappans traded their goods with distant civilizations even beyond India. People in places like Susa, Mesopotamia and other parts of West Asia valued these beads and used them as ornaments. So these beads are important evidence of long distance trade between the Indus Sarasvatī civilization and other parts of the ancient world. This is a Harappan ivory comb about 7 cm long that was found on the coast of Oman. It shows that Harappans made small, finely crafted objects for daily use. Ivory combs were ornamental and functional, reflecting their skill in working with delicate materials. This is another example of long-distance trade and the high quality of Harappan craftsmanship. So, the Harappans were active traders and they used land, rivers and the sea to move goods. This was India's first major maritime activity. Many Harappan settlements were along the coast of Gujarat and Sindh. Lothal, a small city in Gujarat, had a huge basin measuring 217 meters long and 36 meters wide. That is slightly longer than 2 football fields. This basin was probably a dockyard used to receive and send boats, helping transport goods to faraway places. Harappan trade was so big and organized that traders needed a way to identify their goods and themselves. They used thousands of small seals for this purpose. Seals were mostly made of steatite, a soft stone that hardens when heated. They were only a few centimeters in size. Most seals show animal figures and a few signs from a writing system. We don't yet understand the full meaning of the signs or the animal symbols, but we know that the seals were connected to trade activities, maybe to mark goods or ownership. And now we have some pictures of Harappan seals. Seal showing a unicorn and a bull and a horned tiger. Around 1900 BCE, the Indus Sarasvatī, that is Harappan civilization, began to decline. Cities were abandoned one by one. Some people stayed but switched to rural life, that is farming in small villages. The earlier government or city administration seems to have disappeared. Eventually, the Harappans scattered into hundreds or thousands of small settlements. Even though the urban civilization ended, people continued farming, trading and living in smaller communities. Archaeologists now agree on 2 main reasons for the decline of the Harappan civilization. First one, climatic change. Around 2200 BC, the climate became drier in many parts of the world. Less rainfall made farming harder and reduced food supply for cities. Second, drying of the Sarasvatī river. The central basin of the Sarasvatī river dried up. Cities like Kalibangan and Banawali could no longer survive and were abandoned. There may have been some other reasons, but these show how humans depend on climate and the environment for survival. Even though Harappan cities were abandoned, their culture and technology did not vanish. Skills like urban planning, water management, metallurgy, and craft making continued. People carried these knowledge and practices into smaller settlements and later civilizations. This means the Harappan's achievements influenced the future of India. In exams, you may be asked to locate Harappan cities on the map. Remember, most of them are found in the northwestern Indian subcontinent. So, practicing these places will help you in math questions. So, with this, we have completed the full revision of the chapter, The Beginnings of Indian Civilization. I hope you found it easy to understand. If you want to see more videos like this, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. We will see you again in our next video. Bye bye.